This is an emergency red alert warning for World War III. We have a top NATO admiral coming out and warning that civilians need to be getting prepared. They need to be getting flashlights. They need to be getting batteries. They need to be getting water. All right, this is what one of the top leaders in NATO are saying right now. Right now, they are warning civilians to stock up in NATO countries because they're saying that something big is coming very soon. He's also warning of a major cyber attack that could hit NATO countries as well and knock out critical infrastructure. Right? This is happening right now in live time. We also have 90,000 troops mobilizing right now in NATO for its largest, quote, drill that they've done since the Cold War. All right, something big is brewing right now, and you need to take these warnings seriously. When a top military leader comes out and says this, it means that he's seen the battle plan, he's seen what's going to happen, and he's telling people it's time to go. They're now bringing it to the civilian front, and he's even saying that civilians will be mobilized, and they're even bringing this idea out that there could be a draft. There could be a military draft. They are now normalizing this idea and put it in the papers. And this top NATO admiral is saying that civilians will have to be involved. We're going to have to mobilize the entire population. He's saying that civilization is going to change from this, and the entire front of civilization is going to have to get behind this major war that is coming. And this all comes at the same time that our borders are wide open. All right, our borders are wide open, and there's actually a new report on how over 40 million acres of farmland are now owned by foreign countries. 40 million acres. It doesn't even have to be farmland, but 40 million acres, a lot of it is farmland. And some of these areas are actually right along the border. They're actually right along the border. Some of these counties where foreign countries are buying up a ton of farmland. And just look at this really quick. This is why putting these two together, our open border with these military warnings, are critical. Just look at this really quick, and then we will get to this warning. But silent invasion of America. At least 40 million acres of land, including plots near our military bases and along the border, are now owned by foreign nationals from countries like China, Russia, and Iran, and the U.S. government doesn't have data to know the full extent of the problem. Yeah, this is being disclosed. There was just a disclosure of a $85 million property that was owned by a foreign national, and they bought it almost a decade ago, and we're just now finding this out. You can see here a watchdog claims the U.S. government is not keeping tabs on foreign landowners. It says the report reveals at least 40 million acres are owned by other countries, and you can look at this map here, all right? This map shows all the different counties where different countries are buying up this land, and you can see here there's a lot of border being bought up. All right, there's a giant chunk there in Texas being bought up by Iran. All right, there's a chunk in California being bought up by China. All right, these chunks are everywhere, and it's a national security threat as well. Some areas they're buying up giant sections near military bases. All right, these places could be used as staging grounds and setting grounds at the same time we are being invaded by the tens of thousands, and there could be military units sliding in. They could be setting up on these properties as well. Not saying everyone is, but certain properties could be used for strategic advantages and strategic locations and set up units. They could set up farms. They could set up entire little communities to be self-sustaining. All right. So when something happens, these units can be activated. So just something to think about before we dive into this warning from this top NATO admiral as well. Let's get into this now, because this is critical, and we've never had a warning like this coming from this high up in NATO, somebody telling you directly to get stocked up on batteries, on radios, on all these things, on water, on supplies. All right, he's saying this directly. We need to get stocked up on this. And really quick too, you can even see here Democratic Senator John Tester said, quote, "While we learn about the specifics around this unfolding situation, it highlights the need for Congress to do more to protect American agriculture security and prevent our foreign adversaries from controlling our country's food supply while also gaining access to land near sensitive military bases." All right? It's another thing. These companies have bought up our food supply. It's tainted. And if something breaks out, a major war breaks out, they could use that leverage to shut it down, But you can see here, I want you to listen to this top NATO admiral, and then we will get into all the other quotes that he gave. He's warning you to stock up on all these supplies. He's also warning that they are now normalizing this idea that there could be a draft. People could be conscripted, and businesses could be, they're going to start mobilizing the civilian side of our country for a war. That's what they're saying, and that's what they're saying in the mainstream news right now. But you can see here it says conscription may be on its way back after NATO warns of all-out war with Russia. Here's another one. NATO official urges civilians in the West to prepare for, quote, all-out war. It says top NATO chief warns we need to start preparing for an all-out war. So they're even bringing this idea of conscription back for civilians. It says a top military officer is warning people that they could be conscripted into the armed forces after NATO admitted it is preparing for an all-out war with Russia. Admiral Rob Bauer, chairman of NATO's military committee, delivered a chilling message that civilians must brace themselves for the prospect of being called up for military service. He said, quote, "We are in an era in which we need to expect the unexpected." So I'm going to play this little clip for you, and then we're going to get into the things he's telling you to stock up on and be prepared for. He's also warning of major cyber attacks as well, and we're going to talk about these planes where something could be going on as well. There's been a cyber attack on Boeing, and then we're seeing all this Boeing chaos with these different planes. We're going to get into that in just a second as well. But I want you to listen to this, what he said. All right, this is critical, this message that he has, because this is what's going to happen in every NATO country on earth. This is what the future is going to look like. And he's saying society is going to change. Society is going to change from this. Just listen to him really quick. This is Admiral Bauer.
The big difference with a year ago, I would say, Terry, is that there's a lot of things that have happened in the armed forces and in the defense organizations. What hasn't happened is in our societies, the understanding that it is more than the military that has to be able to operate in a conflict or in a war. It is the whole of society that will get involved, whether we like it or not. I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace. And that's why we have the plans.
The simulated conflict is...
All right, so you heard that from himself. That was Admiral NATO Top Admiral Bauer, all right? And he's was answering questions on this giant drill that they are running, okay? They're mobilizing 90,000 NATO troops along the Russian and Belarus border in Eastern Europe, okay? And they're saying this is going to be a months-long drill, moving troops around constantly, and it's to show that they can withstand a major widespread war for months. All right, that's what this drill is for, and he's answering questions about it. And he's saying that we need to expect the whole of society to get involved, whether we like it or not. All right, that is what he's saying. And he's saying that the civilian side is going to have to get involved in this. There's going to be conscriptions, and there's going to be forced mandates within business as well. And you're going to be forced to do certain things. Essentially, martial law is coming, right? That's essentially what he's warning, a major martial law warning. He also said citizens will need to make basic preparations in case of a massive conflict outbreak. He said, quote, you need to have water, you need to have a radio on batteries, and you need to have a flashlight on batteries to make sure that you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like that. That's simple things, but it can start there. There's a realization that not everything is plannable. Not everything is going to be hunky-dory in the next 20 years. Okay, so he's saying that this could go on for 20 years. We're about to enter a major changing of society that could go on for the next 20 years. They're saying this war, this conflict, it's going to potentially go on for 20 more years, and it's going to ramp up, and you need to be stocked up on batteries, radios. That makes me think that they're preparing for something big, all right? Nationwide blackouts, nationwide cyber attacks, and domestic hits on NATO countries. He went on to say, talking about major cyber attacks, he said that the US and NATO are coordinating with South Korea and Japan, and he said, quote, talks have been underway since last year on the sharing of intelligence with Japan on cyber-related issues, but also as a early warning systems related to China. It's no secret that China is a huge threat to Taiwan. All right, that's what this top NATO admiral is saying, and this is all happening while there are 90,000 troops being mobilized as well. This isn't a drill, this is a show of force, and this is a mobilization to be ready for something big to happen. They want to have these 90,000 troops ready to go in case there's an attack or in case they want to make a first step as well, right? This is the era that we are entering. This is what happens. This is part of the cycle of countries when they enter economic dollar collapse scenarios. Their currency starts collapsing. It's part of this banking cycle where when there's a major collapse internally of countries, a lot of times they branch out and start wars, okay? And they contribute to wars. They fund both sides of wars, and they get involved in wars. And this is happening all over the place. Countries all over the world are facing economic turmoil and facing problems. Even China's having massive problems. Their stock market's collapsing right now. They're having growth issues, okay? All these different countries are facing their own economic issues just like the US is. And a lot of times when there's a downturn like this, we see major wars break out. All right, so this is a very dangerous time in history, and it seems like they are getting us ready for something big. And people are already panic buying, okay? All over Sweden, they warned that war is coming very soon. Their top officials were warning just last week, war is coming, get ready, get stocked up. And people have been panic buying. The shelves have been empty. They said people have been buying up all the radios, just like this NATO officials warning. Have a radio, a battery powered radio, and have a ton of batteries. I've been saying this for years. Get stocked up on batteries. Batteries are going to be critical. You're going to be scrounging for them in the remote and old remotes, and you're going to be looking for batteries and scrounging for them when it hits the fan. You're going to be desperate for it. And also, you can charge your phone. There's a hack that you can use, all right? I'm not saying you should. It's a little sketchy, but there are ways that people have used to charge their phone with a battery, all right? Go look that up if you want to learn that skill, all right? But these are the things we need to have. And radios, that might be the only way to communicate, okay? Because he keeps saying that because the internet's going to be down. The internet's going to be down. The satellites are potentially going to be down. There could be a EMP, and anything in the higher atmosphere is going to be hit. Especially satellites are going to be knocked out and could cause major internet communication issues because, yes, there are cables, but that chunk of the internet is going to be taken offline. All right, so whatever it is, 20-30%, that is satellite connectivity will be taken offline, and all the congestion will be trying to compensate the other way. And it'll cause big problems. All right. So that's why he's warning you need to have a radio, because the cell phones aren't going to work. The phones aren't going to work. This is why you need to have a generator. This is why you need to have kerosene lamps. All right. Kerosene lamp back here. This is why if you can have a wood stove. All right. All these things are critical. Growing your own food. Getting a garden. We got chicks over here. We're starting a new flock of chicks. All right. These things are critical and are going to be even more important if things start breaking down, people start panicking and start buying up all the food. If something big happens, you can bet there's going to be society-wide panic buying and empty shelves all over the place. All right, it's happening in Sweden right now, and we've seen it happen in the U.S. before for other things, and especially if there's a conscription, there's a draft, anything along these lines, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be crazy in the US, and they're warning that it's coming soon. It's coming soon, all right? And speaking of all these cyber attacks, this has already been happening, okay? There was a major cyber attack on Boeing just a few months ago. Boeing Airlines, military contractor, holds all the top secret information for the military, for DARPA. All these different organizations have their information tied up inside of Boeing, okay? And there was a major cyber attack for them, and they got terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of their data was stolen from Boeing. And then in the aftermath of that, and I reported on this, and people thought this was crazy, how I was reporting how this could compromise our U.S. military. This could compromise the planes. This could compromise their operating systems. It's a lot of it is software based now, okay? And it could compromise all these systems, even civilian systems, and they're admitting that it was compromising their parts manufacturing and their parts shipping and getting new parts out to planes. They were saying that it was compromising that. And then what have we seen? All these Boeing planes have had these major disasters in the past few months since this happened, all right? Even a couple days ago, Anthony Blinken was trapped at Davos, okay? He was over at the WEF meeting over there where they're planning out our futures and planning these wars and planning these lockdowns and planning all this stuff, right? He was over there and his plane got stuck, and it's a Boeing. There was a glitch. They were saying there was a oxygen glitch, something along those lines, with this plane, and he had to switch planes. There keeps being incidences with Boeing Airlines, and it seems like there could be a compromise going on. There could be some internal compromise, or just their parts are compromised and they're not able to get everyone the proper parts they need, and they're having faulty issues all the time. Do you remember this door flew off? Okay. And then also just yesterday, there was a major cargo ship coming out of Miami that was a Boeing cargo ship transporting goods, and it was spewing fire out the back of it coming out of Miami. All right. Another Boeing plane. So something's going on with Boeing. Something's happened the past few months. There's a major competency crisis as well, where there is not enough replacement workers to fill these jobs. All right. And another thing that I just thought about, thinking about all of this, the U.S. is supposed to be this major supplier of weapons, this weapons manufacturer for these wars and all these things. And I remember a few months ago seeing this weapons factory, and it was all being run by people individually making these shells by hand. All right, they were making all these things by hand, sealing them off, filling them up. They were doing all this by hand. All right, and it was also the older generation was doing this. There was not even any younger people that were doing this. It was all the older generation that was keeping this going, that was keeping the manufacturing of these critical weapon systems that we're selling and giving away all over to the world. And if something happens to the U.S., our supplies are diminished. Our supply chain has been diminished. Our manufacturing capacity has been diminished. All of it. All of it's been destroyed, taken offline. And that's why they're saying that the military is going to have to come in soon, essentially declare martial law and having to start taking over these parts of the economy. Just a few months ago as well, Biden activated the Wartime Powers Act. He used the Wartime Power Act. We have to be in a war to use these powers, apparently. Apparently you don't, or apparently we are in a war. Not sure what's going on. And he used it to take over parts of the economy to force them to produce certain things like heat pumps, like electric heat pumps, and not produce propane furnaces. All right, they're already taking over parts of the economy and the supply chain and forcing them to do certain things with these wartime powers and these war acts. All right, Biden's already done this, and now NATO could start doing this as well. We could start seeing NATO doing this on the ground in NATO countries. So this is why we need to be getting stocked up. We need to be getting ready. Even in these scenarios, we could see preps and farms, things like this, being seized. Right? We could see these things being seized that need to be essential for the military. All right, we've already seen Amish farmers being raided, seizing their goods. Now imagine if there's a martial law scenario, essentially, and the military has taken over the means of production. They are going to be taking over farms, taking over your homestead maybe. Maybe your preps even might be deemed necessary. You might have to split them up. Might not be able to keep them. This is the situation we are heading towards very quickly. Very quickly. And if there's a major cyber attack, or if there's an attack on the electric grid, and they've already been warning of this for months, that all of these systems have critical components that are compromised, that are manufactured overseas, and they have back doors already installed inside of them. Right? They already have back doors installed in a lot of these critical systems that are part of our infrastructure, like the grid and the water supply, and they can be accessed through the internet. All right, we're getting to a point where all this stuff needs to be taken offline. It needs to be taken offline. It needs to be analog. We cannot risk having everything attached to the internet, especially our critical infrastructure. It's not worth it, and we can't risk it anymore. And there actually already was this major cyber attack on Foxconn. All right, this is a military contractor, and they build critical items for the military, right? They build weapons, all these different things for the military. And there was a major cyber attack on Foxconn and their semiconductor manufacturing capabilities, right? This was just a few days ago. It hit a Taiwan factory, their main place where they make these semiconductors and chips, which are critical, which are in everything, all the way down to your card that you use. Your bank card has a little chip in it, has semiconductors in it. Even those are made in these factories, and we've outsourced all these factories overseas as well. We don't even make any of these things domestically. So make sure you guys are stocked up on food, water, canned food, rice, beans, all right, all the stuff you need to be stocked up on. You need to be able to have your freezer stocked up. You need to have a generator. You need to have gas tanks, water tanks filled up. All right, you need to be able to just stay in your house for a week if it hits the fan. Be able to sit in your house for a week with no power. All right, I know that sounds crazy, but I've been in situations like that just from hurricanes. Been out of power for 2 weeks situations before, and really bad ones. All right, so it can happen. It can happen anywhere. I've lived off-grid in my RV for years off of a generator as well. You need to have these things so you're ready to go if it hits the fan, all right? So please hit it up for me down there to help get this warning out to more people so people can get prepped, people can get ready. There's a ton of big stuff going on, a lot of moving parts, and they're getting us ready for something big. 2024 is going to be a big year. All right, so thank you guys so much. I hope you have big blessings for your family, your homestead, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.